glad to be here. We're visitors here today, but we come because we really have known these two for a very long time. A very long time. So Paul, my husband and I first met David in 1972. Is that right? No, I don't want to use that. I'll just shout. We met David in 1972, and Jill and I go back even further. 1965. Yeah, you didn't know we were that old, right?
You all do now.
And it's just a joy to be here today because there's so much love in the room for these two. And you only get that when they've spent time, when people have spent time in a place and you really know them. And it's just wonderful to hear you say how much you love them. And it's such a pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting us to be with you here today. Now, we can look back a very, very, very long time. And we all like nostalgia, right? We all like looking back at the good stuff. This is now the moment when what has been a very glorious evening, I'm afraid the tone will lower slightly. Because that's sort of what we do. But we're going to invite you to look back in time. We're going to take a little dig at the past. So I'd like you to imagine that we're in perhaps a television studio. But it's not 2018. It's not 3018. Let's go forward another millennium. It's 4018. And we're going to look back. Okay, are you there?
Yeah.
Great. Here we go. Good evening.
Good evening.
Primitive societies of the past have always captured the imagination, and none more so than the 21st century. Historical novelists cannot resist that flamboyant gentleman of the road, the sales rep. He's a flamboyant character in his Armani suit and his glittering Toyota. And in our dreams, we travel with him to outlandish destinations, to Ongar, to Grimethorpe, and the highly improbable Stoke-on-Trent. We thrill to the words, motorway services, rich in romance and high drama. Now, with me this evening to help us investigate the truth behind the fiction is Professor George Edelman. Archaeologist, historian and writer.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Now, Professor, just how many of our romantic illusions about the 21st century are you going to let us keep?
Well, we have recently been excavating a number of sites in the centre of Barnsley. And which were inhabited during the early years of the 21st century, and a very definite picture is beginning to emerge.
A picture of what?
Of drabness, frustration, superficiality.
Oh, just what you imagined, in fact.
Yes, indeed, we're very excited. For instance, I wonder if you could tell me what that is.
Oh.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is. It's exquisite.
Isn't it?
May I?
Yes, be very careful.
Oh. Well, it's very delicately traced.
Delicate trace, yes?
Yes, it's beautifully coloured.
Coloured, yes.
It must have meant a lot to whoever possessed it.
Yes, this was, in fact, a love token.
A love token?
Yes, people would give these to one another instead of love. Husbands, for instance, would give a great many to turf accountants, publicans, second-hand car salesmen, and even one or two to their wives.
Extraordinary. So what else have you got for us?
Yes, well, I'll just pop that down there and see what you make of this.
Well, this is a bit more sophisticated.
Isn't it just?
Yes. So this screen.
Screen, yes.
For display.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, and these knobs,
Knobs.
adjustment.
Yes, you see, the 21st century civilization, as we sometimes call it, was terrified of the open air. They didn't dare go out and do anything. Instead, they would stay inside and watch other people doing things on this box. It kind of let them know what was going on.
And it entertained them, presumably.
We have no evidence of that now.
Do we know why they were so frightened of the open air?
Well, there are a number of theories. The first is that there was no such thing as fresh air. And the second is a fear of the little people.
You don't expect us to imagine that they believed in fairies.
Oh, they most certainly did. It was said that during the hours of darkness, while mortals were asleep, a band of fairy folk known as the stag-doos would skip mischievously about the town, painting things the wrong colour, smashing windows, and tipping machinery into canals.
And presumably nobody ever saw this.
Well, it was considered bad luck to come across one of these troops at their sport. Apparently, if their merrymaking were interrupted, they would throw you to the ground and skip mischievously about you, playfully thrusting broken bottles into your face.
Well, Professor, you mentioned drabness and frustration.
Yes.
Have you got something a bit more exciting for us?
Well, yes, of course. Now, we discovered several items all together in a small cache in the centre of Barnsley. And the relationship between these objects is hard to unravel. But this is the first one.
Is that a dog collar?
Well, almost correct, yes. But not for controlling animals, it turns out. No. Scholars believe that this was in fact a badge of office for those trying to control people. And it occasionally had some religious implication. It is actually a puzzle.
Oh, you mean you don't know what it is?
No. I mean, it is actually a puzzle. It's a kind of code. You see, this collar was intended to be worn back to front. And that is a clue. Because if you turn the letters the other way around as well, then dog collar becomes...
God collar?
Exactly. So this was ceremonial wear for those organising weekly gatherings, primarily for the purposes of worship, but also for collecting coins in little bags. And then we discovered this.
Really? In Barnsley?
Yes.
It must have been worn for a bet.
We also know, you see, that these weekly gatherings were sometimes punctuated by other events known as jumble sales. And this has probably survived from one of those. Jumble sales were a kind of clothes exchange. So you came to the jumble sale and you donated clothes that you would no longer be seen dead in. And you would go away dressed in the clothes of other people who had discarded them in similar circumstances.
People wore other people's clothes in public.
It took a great deal of courage, yes. But maybe it was to identify with other members of the community, to draw it together, who knows?
Or a ploy to counteract all the drabness by putting a smile on everybody's face.
Yes, maybe, yes. But the plot thickens when I tell you that we also discovered this. So, exactly what this particular icon was doing in a religious context, I have no idea. It just does not make sense. I mean, obviously, foxgloves existed, and this may be one of a pair, but most likely this handcrafted animal was used to help adults understand deep theological concepts.
Well, imagine the scene all those years ago.
Yes.
You go to join the worshipping community.
And you are confronted by the priest in his back-to-front coded collar, dressed as somebody else, putting on a funny voice and explaining theological concepts with the aid of an imitation fox. This remains a puzzle.
But it is wonderful, isn't it? I mean, you look back and you think all those years ago, people actually used these things.
It is a thrill, isn't it? Yes.
So, what else have you got for
Well, one or two things. We've cleaned this up a bit, and here it is. I wonder if you can tell me what you think
I
that
know
is.
what that is. That is a ritual drinking vessel.
Yes, but of social rather than religious significance on this occasion.
Okay.
This was used when visitors went to a home and was filled with a libation of clear liquid known as gin or gin. And after which a ritual of great richness and complexity would take place. The host would murmur the word of invocation, chuz,
Chance.
and take a sip. And then somebody else would reply with the appropriate response, "Ah, that's better." And then all present would sit down in a small circle and insult those who were not there. This could take the form of extreme abuse or simply lies and exaggerations. After which a meal was eaten.
Oh, and presumably that had some traditions too.
Only one, it had to appear more ornate and look more expensive than the one the visitors had previously provided for them.
They must have had times when they could relax, enjoy themselves. I mean, did they play games?
Games, well, it depends what you mean by games. They were great hoaxers, for instance.
Hoaxes?
Hoaxers, yes. There was one very silly thing which the whole country would get up to every 4 or 5 years. It was called polling or polling. Polling.
Polling.
Polling, yes, the derivation of the word is obvious, to imitate the action of a parrot. Apparently, you would go into a kind of artificial cupboard and place a cross on a small piece of paper. After which the crosses were counted and the pieces of paper thrown away.
Well, it had no effect on anything else?
None whatsoever.
I'm sure it gave them plenty to talk about.
Oh, it did, yes. The arguments, good-natured arguments about what it all meant would go on and on and on and on and on and on and on for years or until the next time.
Professor Hazelden, it's been a fascinating discussion.
Good.
Thank you.
Thank